Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Lori, and I want to talk to you about your obsessive thinking. That's right. That obsessive thinking is a little bit different than overthinking. So I wanted to definitely go down there with you because there's so many people who struggle with it and they're like, what is wrong? Well, there's various things that it can be. So again, big disclaimer here. Don't self-diagnose based on this video or any other video. You always want to talk to your doctor, but it's a good indication. It's a good thing for you to just look and examine and then talk to your doctor about, okay? So that being said, thinking about overthinking, most people are going to do that, right? From time to time, you're going to overthink things. Oh my God, how am I going to do on that test tomorrow? How am I going to do on that test tomorrow? Oh, what did this happen? That's just an overthinking. Should I wear this? Should I not wear it? It can be really minor. It can be really big, right? However, it can become problematic where it's like, think of a merry-go-round or a Ferris wheel. And you get on and you shut yourself in and you're going around and you're going around and you're not getting off. You just keep going around. Well, that's your obsessive thinking. That's an actual thing, is obsessive thinking. So obsessive thinking, I want you to think of it as a loop. And this is also where often that loop of like obsessing, right? Obsessing is just, it's obsessing. And you're constantly overthinking it, overthinking it, overthinking it. And not just overthinking it, now you become a storyteller. Now you start adding things to it. Yep, I bet that's what this person's doing. Yep, oh my gosh, what if that happens? Holy crap, if that happens. Now you start defining and like coming up with all these different scenarios. You have an entire idea and an entire dialogue going on inside of your mind. And now what the original concern was is 15 times more blown up now because you've pretty much already, especially if there's other people involved, you've already kind of played their role for them. And that you can't do that. You can't do that because that goes into, and it can be attributed to OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, right? And people think OCD is just like, let me like touch this 3 times before I open the door or whatever, or something bad's going to happen. No, that's not all OCD is. It's also obsessive. You get on that obsessive loop and it's like you can't get off the merry-go-round. Okay. So when you're in that space, there are some things that you can do about it. Number one is realize you're doing it. Do not say I cannot help it. We are not going to do that because that automatically goes into a little bit of a victim mentality. Can't help it, or this is just how I've been all my life, or this is what I was taught. Okay, so we know that, but be aware of it. So number one, you have to know what you're doing. I'm obsessively thinking about this. Okay, now that's where your 5 journals are going to come into play. When you have your 5 journals, it's a way for you to process what you're actually feeling, right? Pen to pad. Can't do that up here. Don't just do it in your phone. Don't take a shortcut because you don't feel like writing. Like, no, or you're just going to stay in that merry-go-round. And typically in obsessive thinking, there's 2 different things. So let's say you're obsessively thinking about some past stuff. So that's happened. So that is definitely where radical acceptance, I did a podcast on that, where radical acceptance is going to come into play. To understand that it doesn't matter what you could have done. It doesn't matter. Obsessing about it doesn't undo time, doesn't undo a situation, doesn't change the narrative. It is what it is. Okay, so that's one part of obsessing of like, why didn't I say this if I'd done this differently? And always remember this. Sure, if you done said thing differently, your life could be different. That doesn't mean it'd be better. It might be different. That doesn't mean it'd be better. Stop glorifying this idea of like, and I did that for a long time after my mom passed because I was almost 14. You know, oh, if mom was here, God, my life would be so much better. Oh, I'd really have it together so much more. Okay, so now I've Cinderella'd what I think the relationship would be. I don't know that to be a fact. It would have been different, that's true, but I don't know if it'd been better or worse. You just don't know, so you have to accept that. Now, if you're obsessively thinking on things that could happen, number one, what could happen can't happen in this present second in time. But number 2, you don't get to control the narrative. You are not the higher power here. You don't get to look at it and go, okay, so what if this happens? But what if it doesn't happen? I mean, it could happen, yeah. It could also not happen, right? So this is that what if thinking. Well, and so now you obsess it. Oh my gosh, I don't want to take that test. Or especially if you have health anxiety, which I'm going to do a whole video on health anxiety. But then you're like, why? What if I take this test and this comes out? Okay, well, you avoiding the test only makes it worse. Whether you like it or not, you might not like what you're going to hear, but trust me, you want to hear what you got to hear early. So if there is a way to help like alleviate some pain or alleviate whatever, you're on top of it. See, you're fearing the unknown, which again, it can also go into a psychological disorder, right? But you have to understand that the more that you're obsessing about it, both of those scenarios, you're not staying present. See, you have to stay present and in the now. You have to stay in the now. And that's by doing your breathing exercises, doing your journaling, accepting that you are only in control of yourself, accepting that no matter how much you want something to be different or resist something that you think could or couldn't happen, doesn't matter. You're not controlling other narratives. And you really half the time can only control what your perception is, how you see things, how you're experiencing them. So when you're obsessively thinking, like I said, number one is you want to be like, oh, okay, I see what I'm doing here. You want to grab the horse by the reins, right? Pull that back, okay? Be aware of it. Sit down and say, okay, this is control. Yes, it could be part of OCD. Zoloft is really good for that. There's other things that your doctor can talk to you about. Again, don't self-diagnose, talk to your doctor about it. But it's not going to numb you. Like I take Zoloft for that exact reason. And I'm a holistic prescriber, but holistic doesn't always mean safe or even effective. So I use both, and my Zoloft really tones down that chatter. Doesn't make you a zombie, doesn't make me not feel anything, So in that space though, you have to ask yourself, what can I control? Nothing, only yourself. And what am I doing? Oh, I'm focusing too far forward, I'm focusing too far back. And then there's always a deeper issue with it too. One, it could be psychological and how you're wired. We know that. But it could also be you're thinking that you're preventing something or could be preventing something, so you're preparing. But if you're preparing, you're always going to be in prep mode, which means you're never going to be in a good headspace because you're just always going to be prepping. Yeah, things aren't always going to go as planned. That's true. What if it happens? Yeah, it could happen. But know this, you have survived 100% of your bad days. I didn't say you loved them. I said you survived them. So yeah, if you think that you're going to go through life and not have bad days or not have tumultuous times and things like that, not a true statement. It's not going to happen that way. You will have them. Like you will. It's going to happen. So trying to pretend as though you can prevent, that's going to keep you really in a bubble. And now you're going to be stressed. You're going to feel lonely. I didn't say alone. I said lonely. You could still have a family and still feel lonely. So don't misconstrue having people around for healing that loneliness, because that's not a thing. So when you're in that obsessive space, you want to do your breathing. The beautiful thing about breath is you carry it with you everywhere you go. Right? I guess till you don't, but like you carry it with you everywhere you go. So, okay, it's not the cure-all, but it definitely helps balance you, and like put your feet in the ground, write in your journals. You can even tap your fingers. I like to go 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe, exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just bringing you back. You can also look at 5 different things. So like you can look at 5 different things of 5 different colors. If you can feel 4 different things. So I could touch this, I could touch my hair, I could touch my legs, I could touch the chair, right? So like there's a way of bringing you back here to base. It's always going to be mindfulness. So yeah, because see what happens is you get on that loop, right? And you feel like, holy crap, why can't I think of that loop? And then very often, and pay attention to your patterns. Let's say that kind of starts to wane or it goes away, or you're, okay, it's almost like you go, okay, why are things so calm? I need to overthink something, because now your body has come used to that. That's a fight or flight, like adrenaline response. A lot of times you'll have adrenal fatigue behind that. So you've got to kind of nip it in the bud, because if not, don't fight it. Don't be like, oh my God, I can't think this. No, acknowledge it for what it is, process it. But don't get in your headspace and become a story writer and write out the storyline of how things are going to play out, because typically it's not going to work that way. because you're dealing with other players, right? You're not other humans. You can't remove them, like move them like a little like joystick. So that's the important part for you. So obsessive thinking, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You just have to work on healing your stuff. Talk to your doctor if it's super problematic. Tell them what is going on. There are treatments out there for it. Cognitive behavioral therapy is great. DBT is great for it. Coaching is great for it. There's so many great things, right? But be willing to do that. Be willing to release the control that you think you have, because the reality is all that time you think you're in control, you're actually imprisoning yourself.